When I was in high school, I was on the track and field team, specializing in sprinting. Even after the school closed at night, I was so dedicated that I would still go out to practice. That said, I didn't stay on campus to do it. I would run on the roads around my house. Among the various places I ran, the most convenient spot for training was the sidewalk on a bridge about 100 meters long. You couldn't really practice an all-out 100-meter dash in a residential area, but on that bridge, I could do so to my heart's content. However, there was one rather ominous issue associated with that bridge. It was a suicide spot. That bridge, around 30 meters above the river, had few streetlights and was apparently a prime location for people who wanted to end their lives by jumping off. In fact, at the midpoint of the bridge, where people seemed likely to jump, flowers were often placed. At the time, I was so passionate about running faster than the speed at which jumpers would head to the afterlife that it never occurred to me to be bothered by that. If anything, I figured I'd be patrolling the area, making sure nobody actually took the plunge. Then one day, I witnessed a strange sight. A girl in a white dress was sprinting along the sidewalk of the bridge at night. A ghost? But she has legs. While I watched her suspiciously from a distance, I noticed several figures at the end of her run. One was carrying some sort of square equipment, another had something that looked like a spear, another was holding a light. Oh. A movie shoot or something. It seemed to be a group of students filming a movie. But their behavior was pretty questionable. That thing's in the way, right? Yeah, but touching it might be risky. Whatever, haha, let's just toss it. They said something to that effect. One of them walked toward the midpoint of the bridge, picked something up, and threw it into the river. Hey, that spot. A strange silence fell over the area. I didn't have the guts to confront a group of older students, so after they left, I went to check the middle of the bridge. Sure enough, the flowers that had been there until the previous day were gone, vase and all. What the hell did they do? I was shocked for a number of reasons. The next day, partly out of something like a territorial feeling, you could say I felt I had a sort of stake in that spot. I decided I'd put some random wildflowers there to replace what had been thrown away, so I headed for the bridge. What the? The moment I arrived at the bridge, I couldn't help but exclaim out loud. The sidewalk on the bridge, tinted with a purplish dusk, was the place where flowers were always left. But now, there was a massive pile of bouquets. It would be more accurate to say they were stacked up. Enough to fill maybe 2 large garbage bags. On top of that, every last bouquet had dried out to a brownish crisp, yet the pure white wrapping paper binding them together looked strangely new and caught my eye in a very unsettling way. They definitely weren't anything like pleasant dried flowers. Could it be some bizarre act by an enraged family member, furious that the original flowers got tossed last night? I was terrified for all sorts of reasons, so I just quickly placed the wildflowers I'd brought and hurried away from there. After walking a little, I glanced back at the bridge from a distance. That's when I saw something very unsettling. A hand? From between the bridge's railings, something that looked like a pale, stick-like limb was extending out toward the sidewalk. If that was an arm, it would mean someone on the outside of the bridge was hanging on, trying to pull themselves up and reach for the sidewalk. Was it a failed suicide attempt? No, that wasn't human. That was my immediate reaction. I braced myself, and the moment I squinted to get a better look. Ooh. A weary-sounding woman's voice echoed out, and I saw waterlogged, seaweed-like long hair splat against the sidewalk through the gap in the railings. Her head is coming up. I can see her face. Just as I was about to look away, it happened in an instant. Something resembling a pale human head, covered in that long hair, slipped out, grabbed hold of the wildflowers I'd placed, and crammed them into its mouth, chewing ravenously. Zuri. And then, hand, hair, head and all, it was yanked back under the bridge in one swift motion. The gap between the railings was far too narrow for a normal human head to fit through. Yet that pale head had distorted itself as it slid through the opening. The next second, I was sprinting home so fast I definitely shattered my own school record. Holy crap, I'm so glad I'd been training my legs this whole time. The following morning, my mother told me, don't go near that bridge anymore. Surprised that she might have some kind of sixth sense, I asked her why. Mister, who lives near that bridge, said he saw something on fire up there last night. It could be some crazy arsonist, so just don't go there by yourself. So that's something on fire. I told her about the dried bouquets I saw the night before. Naturally, I left out the part about the monster. So you're saying it was those flowers? If that's the case, it makes things more confusing. According to what my mother pieced together from neighbors, flames had been seen burning on the bridge for several hours the previous night. Would a bunch of dried flowers really burn for so long? Curious, I decided after school that day I'd go check out the bridge again. Of course, I was too scared to go alone, so I dragged one of my track teammates with me, doubling up on my bike to get there. We arrived at the bridge around the same time as before, and it was just as dim. Whoa, hey! Don't go any closer than that. I told my friend, who was pedaling, to stop about 20 meters before the midpoint of the bridge. It felt dangerous to get too close right away. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in a suicide spot at night either. My friend was a scaredy cat by nature. Sorry about this, I said with a nervous laugh. So, I think something was burning around there. Do you see anything? I pointed to the spot, and both of us peered into the growing darkness. At some point, a wind had started blowing. Is that right there at the midpoint? There's definitely something lying there. Ugh, that's creepy. What's that white stuff? It looked like pieces of paper, about the size of magazines, set in a row along the sidewalk of the bridge. It was strange, despite being blown around by the wind, they stayed in place, almost like a line of paper you might see at a ritual. My friend and I found ourselves drawn closer. Pure white paper? It reminded me of the white wrapping that had held the bouquets I'd seen before. When we got within a few meters, I realized why the paper wasn't flying away. It was nailed down to the pavement of the sidewalk. The whole scene was weird and unsettling. My friend and I just stood there, speechless. There's something drawn on these papers, isn't there? My friend spoke up. Indeed, every time the paper fluttered in the wind, I could see something drawn on the underside pressed against the ground. At this point, well, I made up my mind and pulled one of the sheets from the nail, turning it over. There was a bright red handprint. On the center of that pure white paper was a small, red handprint, about the size of a baby's hand. The center of that handprint was pierced with a hole where the nail had gone through. What the heck is this? My friend had already pulled a few other sheets from their nails and was looking them over. This one's a handprint too, and a footprint. And some weird drawing. Once again, there was a small crimson handprint, a footprint, and a bird, maybe? It was a simple outline in red, like some ancient cave painting. The nail hole was right where the bird's eye would be. Ah! Suddenly, a woman's head let out a shriek right next to our feet at the railing. Her head, stretched long and thin in a grotesque way, was caught between the rails, her mouth gaping open in a scream. Long, wet hair covered everything but her mouth. Her teeth were unnaturally white. The rest of her body dangled on the far side of the railing. What? We both screamed. The woman's head was right between us, so my friend and I each sprinted in opposite directions at full speed, abandoning the bike and running all the way to the ends of the bridge. No one seemed to be chasing us. No more screaming, either. I stopped and called my friend on my cell. You managed to get away? Are you okay? Breathing hard, he answered. Yeah, I'm fine, but what was that thing? What do I do? How am I gonna get out of here? He was panicking because he'd left his bike behind at the scene, and his house was on the opposite side, meaning he'd have to cross the bridge again to get back. By then it was already after 8 p.m. It was too dark to see across the bridge, and I couldn't tell how he was doing. And of course, not a single car was passing by. Alright, let's call for help. Just say your bike broke or something, and get your parents or a friend to pick you up by car. I'll do the same. He protested, saying he wanted me to come get him, but I managed to calm him down and hung up. Then I tried calling my mom. Beep. 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 No connection. Not even a ringtone. I looked at the screen. It said no signal. What? But I was just talking to him a second ago. BRRRRRNG BRRRRNG. BRRRRRNG BRRRRNG. Now my phone was ringing again, supposedly from my friend. This was beyond weird. Hello? Ah. A shriek. But it wasn't my friend's voice. I tore the phone away from my ear, but the screaming continued. No normal human lung capacity could keep that up. This meant my friend was surely in danger. Damn it. I had to get to him, or there'd be no turning back. Even if I was too late. Ah. Click. I cut off the call, still hearing that continuous scream. Then I sprinted to the far side of the bridge, where my friend was. I didn't want to pass near the railing, so I ran down the middle of the road. The occasional gaps where there were no streetlights were filled with such deep darkness, it felt like something could leap out at me from anywhere. I was on the brink of losing my mind from terror. As I reached the midpoint of the bridge, a dark shape charged toward me out of the pitch black ahead. I completely forgot about rescuing my friend and turned to sprint back the way I came. What the hell? How many jump scares do I have to take? Oh. I was crying, sniffling, and, shamefully, wetting myself as I ran. It's the only time in my life I've ever done all that at once. The shape was still chasing me, I could hear footsteps. But then... Hey! Why are you running away? It was my friend's voice from behind. The dark shape was actually him. He'd been worried about curfew and forced himself to cross to my side, even though he was scared. Wait, you. A second ago on the phone you were screaming at me to come get you. Plus, the signal was dead. Then that crazy scream. Now I was the one freaking out. My phone? It's in my bag, which I left in the basket on my bike. My friend gave me a suspicious look, as if he thought I was playing some sort of prank in this situation. Then, who the hell was I talking to on the phone? After that, we trudged home side by side on foot. He'd lost his bike, and I reeked of urine. It was pretty pathetic. We were both exhausted and didn't say much at all. As we walked through the night, I couldn't stop thinking. If I'd actually made it across the bridge, what would have been waiting for me over there, and what would have happened to me? I almost wet myself again from the thought, but there was nothing left to leak. A few days later, I asked my grandfather, who was knowledgeable about local geography and history, "Hey, has that bridge always had spooky rumors or some kind of history behind it?" "Yes, that area is connected to this," he said, bending his thumb and holding up 4 fingers. 4 Sioux, 4 legs. Some of you might have heard of people who were once referred to by that term. Even today, they exist. Because they weren't able to get normal jobs, many of them in our region did riverbank gravel collecting. Good river gravel fetches a high price from construction companies. Naturally, there were those who worked themselves to the bone digging for it. But this particular stretch of river was known for its swift currents back then. There were frequent drownings year-round. Later, once a dam was built and the water levels stabilized, they finally constructed a bridge there. That's the story my grandfather told me. And there was one other disturbing thing. Those strange sheets of paper we'd found on the bridge that day, unbeknownst to us, both my friend and I had stuffed them into our pockets and brought them home. We ended up burning them, then sprinkling a bit of salt at our front doors and in our rooms. Nothing out of the ordinary has happened since. We still don't know if my grandfather's tale is actually connected to the weird events on the bridge. But from that day on, my friend and I both made sure never to cross that bridge again without a car.